New Jersey preschoolers would be receiving safe touch education intended to curb sexual abuse under a new bill that just passed the New Jersey legislature unanimously. Under Erin's Law, named for child sex abuse survivor Erin Marin, New Jersey would become the 36th state to require the training from preschool through grade 12. Some schools already teach it voluntarily. Advocates say that it's never too early to teach kids about what is appropriate and what isn't. I caught up with Patrice Lenowitz from the Nurtured Parent, who supports this legislation. How do you guard against what we've seen happen where people have been falsely accused because the kid was coached in a certain way? How do you prevent that from happening and seeing an increase in false accusations?
I think that is probably a very, very small amount of cases. The reality is that not enough children come forward and not enough support is provided to the families to protect the child sooner.
But again, back to that point, it does happen, and it's not a small deal if you're the one person accused. How do you guarantee, or how do you look at this from a perspective of a teacher, kindergarten teacher, preschool teacher? How do you bridge that gap to make sure you've got teachers who are doing this properly?
Well, Erin's Law provides its federally funded instruction to provide our schools with the proper information, age-appropriate information each year. It grows with the child for their age level to understand what's appropriate and what's not appropriate.
All right, let's bring in tonight's A-plus panel and talk about, well, what I think are two sides to this discussion. Lisa Durden, social commentator, is back with us, and Bob Bianchi, former prosecutor and now defense attorney. Bob, I'm going to start with you on this. 36 states, it actually seems like if you support this, New Jersey, surprisingly, is late to the party. But the other side says, to me anyway, the possibility of someone being falsely accused is raised.
I think that this is a phenomenal law. I think there's a reason why in a vapidly partisan political scenario that it was unanimously passed. It not only teaches people how to act responsibly and how they touch. Moreover, as a prosecutor, how many young victims have been victims of crime because they've been told to keep it a secret and they don't know the difference between good touch and bad touch. That said, there is an infinitesimal statistical fact, if you will, that every now and again with any law you pass, you may have led to something that causes somebody to be falsely accused. But the reason I don't have a big problem with that with this law is that would take the parent or some guardian or somebody that was older to translate the training program into accusing somebody of inappropriately doing it, which to me, the cost-benefit analysis, this law is phenomenal.
You've been involved in a case like that.
I've had many cases.
Was directed.
I've had many cases as a prosecutor where it turned out not to be accurate, and as a defense lawyer. And let's not forget the Margaret Kelly Michaels case. It was a nationally renowned case in New Jersey where multiple young kids were manipulated by the manner in which they were interrogated to falsely accuse somebody of committing horrible offenses. So that is possible with young minds.
So, Lisa, to that point, and I understand Bob's point, and but forgetting even the falsely accused adults, what of the school teachers that now have this burden of teaching something that are they qualified to do it? And I think school teachers are some of the best people we have in society, but they're not psychologists, they're not psychiatrists, and you're not talking about kids who have achieved any level of reason. You're talking about 4- and 5-year-olds.
I like this legislation because people forget that kids sexually assault other kids. Now, it's not just when an adult is touching you wrongfully, it's when one of your classmates is doing something, touching your butt or putting a mirror on your... When I was young, somebody put a mirror, boys would put a mirror on their sneaker and put it under your dress.
Exactly. Why are we not talking about psychiatrists, psychologists, and pediatricians?
It's not that deep.
The teachers are in direct contact with these students every day. They're looked up to far more than would a professional like you're suggesting. And to Lisa's point, which is something that I raised earlier, and I think is important, is it sets boundaries and maybe prevents a kid from being accused of doing something because you're letting them know this is acceptable, this is unacceptable. Why not a teacher?
It might stop them from doing something.
From doing it.
Not just accused. Some people do things, and it will let them know this is not right.
Debate will continue. Thanks, guys.